Dungeons and Dragons Online is going to be celebrating the 50th anniversary of the game Dungeons and Dragons. And as a result, they have a lot of interesting stuff planned for us for the new year, for the 50th anniversary. And it just happens also to be the year of the dragon. So, the year of the dragon. And so they are theming everything that they're doing this year along with that anniversary and year of the dragon. The producer letter has a lot of really good stuff in it, and we are going to take a look at it. But I just wanted to say that while some things are awesome and look amazing, they, in typical fashion, are also releasing some things that are less than exciting. And a great example of what I'm talking about was the first, what they call dynamic event that they released for us in 2023, which was the Illithid event, which had some cool elements of it. There was sort of like a scavenger hunt of finding the Illithids and then unlocking these new dungeons and then earning this new type of loot, which is a deck of many curses, which not only references the deck of many things, but also has been done pretty successfully in other video games, probably most notably in World of Warcraft, where they have a deck that's very similar. So, but the main downside of the Illithid event was that it was not very fun to do, and there weren't many Illithids, and you had to do it at endgame, and there was not anything going on out in the world itself. You had to actually go into quests on Reaper, and then these trigger points were hidden deep inside these quests. So it was a very elaborate sort of a treasure hunt, which worked really well with the gold pieces during Hardcore League. But it wasn't really fun for this event, so I actually didn't find any Illithids during the entire Illithid event. I waited for the players who were hunting for them to unlock the dungeons, and then I just went in and did the dungeon. So I have mixed feelings, and so for Mary's hot take, we are going to implement a strategy to protect ourselves from really negative news. And that's going to be that we are going to activate our Snuggie of Protection. And I'm not affiliated in any way with Snuggie, although I probably should be, because I love it. But our Snuggie of Protection will keep us safe while we read this producer letter and try to make sense of the roadmap for 2024 that, ironically or unironically, snubs Hardcore League. So we're going to talk about it. So here I'm activating my Snuggie of Protection. Okay, here we go. So let's dive into this now that I've got it. We're protected. Let's take a look. So here we go. This is the 2024 producer letter. And for Dungeons and Dragons Online, I'm assuming they did one for Lord of the Rings Online as well. And it's full of a lot of really cool, exciting stuff. So I'll read it, and then we can go over the various points, and then I'll talk to you about how I kind of feel about what's going on in this letter. But so greetings everyone. Today I wanted to tell you about some of our plans for the year in Dungeons and Dragons Online. And I'll read the letter as it exists so you guys can hear it out loud. I hope you all had a fantastic 2023 and that you're ready for more adventures. Like I said earlier, it's the 50th anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons as a game. So there will be celebrations all across the entire platform of Dungeons and Dragons. Likely other games will see anniversary event styling. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Baldur's Gate put out a DLC for the anniversary. There's a lot of other Dungeons and Dragons games too. And then also things like Critical Role. If you guys watch that, they'll probably talk a lot about it. But I'm just speculating now. So let's get back to this. This is our Dungeons and Dragons producer letter. They're outlining the plan of what they're going to do for the year. You guys are probably already familiar with this. So I just wanted to reiterate that it's the anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons. In a way, it's kind of thematically appropriate. It has me thinking about when I used to write D&D adventures by hand for my friends. It's nice to pause and reflect on those endearing D&D moments because it's the 50th anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons. That's half a century of people lovingly making their characters, builds, their campaigns, and playing with their friends. So I may paraphrase accidentally, but it's just because my brain and the way my eyes read, I'm a little dyslexic, so I apologize if I don't read it exactly as it is, but I'll try. So she goes on, and yeah, sure, lots of tools and technologies have changed in the last 50 years, but what hasn't changed is the passion and creativity of everybody who loves D&D. This is a huge reason why it has endured, and as luck would have it, the 50th anniversary happens to fall on the lunar year of the dragon, so it's the Chinese year of the dragon, which is kind of cool considering that it's the 50th anniversary of Dungeons & Dragons. How fantastic is that? So that means we're going to celebrate big, dragon big. Okay, so all this sounds great. So you may be asking, Mary, why is this a hot take video? Why are you wearing your Snuggie of protection? Well, it's because there's a lot of stuff in here that is sort of unsettling. Because they're going to be addressing and changing some of the ways that they do stuff. So we'll talk about it. I'm not upset about it. But the biggest one, obviously, is that they're going to be snubbing the hardcore. So we'll read more. I'm pleased to announce that starting DDO's anniversary in February, we'll be rolling out a year-long celebration in honor of Dungeons and Dragons 50th anniversary. That's really cool. That's exciting. From free gifts, features, each month during the Year of the Dragon celebration will be something exciting for our players. Be sure to check in with us on February 7th when we will reveal each month's Year of the Dragon surprise. So it sounds like they are going to have a login reward for every month during the year 2024 to celebrate this event, and that's pretty cool, especially if they make the login rewards something a little bit more, than just like a little thing. It would be great if it were like a unique cosmetic or a mount or something that isn't available in the game at any other time. At one point in the past for the anniversary, they did these deck of cards that you could roll. It was a dice bag or something like that, and you could roll dice and get rewards. I have it. I should actually look at it online with you guys, but let's get back to the letter. So to help your friends and family get ready for the Year of the Dragon, we're also pleased to announce a return of a special coupon that can be used to get a ton of free quest packs, and the coupon code is free DDO 2024. It lasts until February 11th. I have used this code. It works right now. You can activate it right now. And then you can click on this link here, and that will take you to a further explanation of that. But it's very straightforward if you've entered a coupon code in the past. In addition, we'll have lots of excitement planned for 2024. Here is a sense of what those updates entail. Now, because hardcore got snubbed and is not mentioned, that doesn't mean that they may not run it anyway. Because the languaging that they're using here is that they have a lot planned and that this is just an early sense of what they plan to do. So it is possible that this is an incomplete letter, but the way it reads, it sounds very specific. So the first thing that they talk about is the next expansion, which they put up for a poll. They asked people what everybody wanted next, and people voted on it. And I guess overwhelmingly popular was Myth Draenor. It looks like Myth Draenor won. I voted for Myth Draenor, so I'm happy to see this. By popular demand, our next major expansion in the summer will take place in a fan favorite D&D location, Myth Draenor. It is among the more infamous places in the Forgotten Realms, and we're very excited to bring it to life. The level cap will increase to level 34, and I'm looking forward to one of Myth Draenor's hallmarks, the wild magic areas. That is very cool that they're going to add that. Myth Draenor is a place where you open yourself up to chaos and allow you to tap into a greater power, Myth Draenor, and interfere with the plans of the Red Wizards of Thay. They are like, a popular fixture of this particular landscape. Quintessential D&D and Dungeons & Dragons dungeon delving environment. Pre-sale for the expansion starts in June. All this is great. I love that they're doing this. This is great news. What that says to me is that when they go back to the Forgotten Realms and add Myth Draenor, that it will give them an opportunity to update and refresh all of the content that they have in the Forgotten Realms, which has not been updated or refreshed since it was implemented over a decade ago, back when they were releasing content for Menace of the Underdark. It's actually probably longer than 10 years now. So that's a really good thing. There's a lot of artwork that needs to be refreshed because the art style is different now in the game. And then a lot of the meta has changed. So a lot of the loot in those old quests need to be updated. And then a lot of the player races that exist in the Forgotten Realms need to be updated to the modern meta as well. So all of that would be really good for them to do for the game in general, just because a lot of people really like that content out in the Forgotten Realms. A lot of the quests, it just is a different feel than the Eberron quests, and it's very popular. People really like it. So I think it's a great thing for the game overall. It's an overall big W for D&D, DDO. So let's continue with the letter. In addition to the 2 quest packs, so that we're getting 2 quest packs apparently, and the expansion. So there'll be 2 quest packs and an expansion. There will also be a dynamic event with quests to unlock. Now, the first dynamic event was the Illithid event. The Illithid event was a dynamic event in the sense that it unfolded over the course of a couple of weeks. Players had to interact with various aspects of the game, and as they did, it dynamically changed the event and unlocked certain dungeons and made certain things accessible. The problem, like I said at the beginning of this live stream, is that the Illithid event was sort of a massive fail. It was a big, big L for many reasons, and a lot of people will just say that it was dead on arrival. It was sort of like a lame duck. I think I called it stillborn. It was just like a really cool idea to capitalize on the popularity of Baldur's Gate, because Baldur's Gate's main story is focused on an illithid invasion and how the city of Baldur's Gate deals with that. But in DDO, they had the invasion occur sort of everywhere, but there wasn't actually an invasion that occurred. There were no invading. You could see the ships in the sky, but that was about it. There really wasn't anything that actually happened. And all of the dynamic interaction that occurred for that event happened at endgame in Reaper quests in these very obscure corners of these quests where you had to find the mind flayers that were hidden there. And it just made no sense. Like, what kind of invasion would be where the invaders are hiding out in the most remote area in a dungeon and you had to crawl through the dungeon in the dark just to find them? I mean, these are invaders. The ships were in the skies over the buildings. They should be launching out like troops, and monsters should be eating people in the streets. It should have been bedlam. But it wasn't. It was a big miss. And so, as a result, a lot of people did not enjoy it. So, the fact that they're highlighting another dynamic event along with the expansion and 2 quest packs makes me sort of wary, because the first dynamic event was such a miss that it makes me wonder why they would want to redo another one right away. So let's continue reading. The dynamic events differ from our seasonal festivals in that they are limited time activities focused heavily on a serious story narrative, DDO canon, and some aspects of them don't repeat once the DDO community advances the story. They also are meant to have elements that let the players experience the event together with collaborative and peer information sharing. Yes, so this is what we saw when they did the golden tickets in hardcore, that it required a lot of players to participate and unlock these sort of riddles and find the locations of these hidden pieces. And while I am a fan of treasure hunting, I just am very wary of the big fail that was that illithid event. And they actually even name it right here. After reviewing feedback on the illithid invasion, this dynamic event will be inclusive of all character levels, since the illithid invasion was fairly endgame focused. So it's good that they reviewed the feedback on the illithid invasion and that they tweaked it in order to make the dynamic event more inclusive for more players, because like I said, the illithid event only occurred at endgame in Reaper content, and then it wasn't like you walk into the area and it was happening right in front of you. You had to literally like trek through these quests and find these hidden locations. So it made no sense. And so I'm hoping that whatever they decide to do, they learned enough about how players interacted with that to understand some of the core necessities for a dynamic event. One of them being the main word event, right? Like, they need to actually make this an event that occurs all within the environment of the game. So when people log in, they see that something is going on, that they like know immediately that they're in the middle of something. That was a huge problem with the illithid dynamic event, because you would log in and it didn't look any different. Yeah, the sky was red. Yeah, if you looked really hard, way over in the corner, there was like a ship, but that was it. It was otherwise the game was completely normal, and you could not even tell that anything was going on. So it was very impossible to really participate in that event just because. Now, the next line is where the snub occurs for Hardcore League. So, this dynamic event will be inclusive of all characters since the Illithid invasion was fairly endgame focused. It will take place of our hardcore season so that all players can participate. Now, this is a major snub to everyone who does hardcore because hardcore season occurs once or twice a year and is extremely popular with the players who play it. And yes, while not every player takes advantage of the hardcore season, it is still very popular. Sorry, my throat's really dry. So to exclude hardcore, to snub it, is very strange. It makes no sense. And it makes me wonder why. And I logged into hardcore earlier because we're in the middle of a season right now. And nobody could understand why either. Actually, people didn't believe it until I told them to go actually read the letter yourself and see what they say about hardcore. And the line is right there that this new dynamic event will take place with the hardcore season. Now, as somebody who lived through that first failed dynamic event, I don't want hardcore to be replaced with another dynamic event because the first dynamic event was terrible. And I enjoy hardcore, so this is why I'm wearing the Snuggie of protection, because I'm just, this is why I'm doing Mary's hot take, because I don't know. Is it a hot take? Am I way off base here? Am I the only person who is upset about them canceling hardcore because they want to replace it with a dynamic event when their track record for dynamic events has been awful? I just don't understand. Maybe that is a hot take, but I think that's a massive L. Like that's not a big W. That's for sure. Especially considering that I know personally, like just I run a guild with 1,000 people in it, and they all spend money on hardcore, and it has to be a significant boost for that quarter whenever they run a hardcore for them financially. So for them to just cancel it, I don't understand how they would think that a dynamic event similar, if it is at all similar to the other dynamic events that we've had, how those would generate money equal to what a hardcore season generates. I just don't see that. I think that's a massive hallucination to expect the live server populations to just start spending all kinds of money on an event when a lot of people aren't even VIPs, right? So but that brings us to the next part. With the necessary store infrastructure upgrades complete last year, we're also looking to roll out the updates in the VIP program in the spring. We've made changes to the proposed rewards based on player feedback, and we'll be bringing more information about the VIP program soon. And this is a big W. Again, the VIP rewards need to be made better. In Lord of the Rings Online, they've got them really good, and so it's confusing to me why over in DDO they're not at all equivalent in how good they are over in Lord of the Rings Online. And then the letter ends with, we'll update Crystal Cove and Night Revels to support the higher level cap, and Night Revels will also get a new dungeon. And then it goes over the development roadmap. And you can see, so Q1 Snow Peaks, which, is okay. People don't really like Snow Peaks, but it's okay. The Year of the Dragon reveal, which I'm assuming that will happen in the next few weeks, where they tell us what the weekly reward is. We'll get the 18th anniversary. They're doing an Epic Destiny balance pass, which basically means that they're probably going to nerf a bunch of Epic Destinies. That balance pass is just code, like it's dev code for, anytime they balance anything, it always winds up in nerfing a bunch of stuff. And then they're going to do the VIP update. Okay, Year of the Dragon continues. That's not even a real update. That shouldn't be there, because we know it's the Year of the Dragon. So this bullet mark that keeps appearing is just a placeholder. It shouldn't be there. We're getting an adventure pack, and then they're doing the pre-purchase. So if you look at Q2, not much at all is happening in Q2. We're just getting an adventure pack. They're going to open the pre-purchase for what's going to occur in Season 3. We skipped this line. This expansion release, this is also not a line because it was already pre-purchased here, so this line can be removed. When the expansion comes out, the level cap goes up, and they will release a raid. They're going to refresh Crystal Cove, which is good, and then we get another adventure pack. That's good. We can ignore this line. Night Revels is always good, and another adventure pack. And then Festival we just had. Of course, that happens every year, and I don't think it really is a surprise to see it on the list, but we already know it happens. So again, there's not a lot here. It's just, if we look at this Night Revels Festival, they happen. So we get an adventure pack, we get the expansion, we get an adventure pack, and then the 18th anniversary, they're doing a bunch of balancing, nerfing, and that's pretty much it. The VIP update, the Dragon Festival, and then whatever it is for their dynamic event. They haven't actually listed what quarter it's going to start or how long it's going to go, which makes me hope that because they didn't list that there, and they say right here that the dates and content are subject to change, that they may actually have just left out anything in regard to hardcore, though they do say that this new dynamic event is going to replace it. And so they go over at the end here of some of the things that they did over 2023. They designed a dungeon that they allowed players to see what happened behind the scenes, and then they released the dungeon Catastrophe, a free quest. PAX East will be happening in March, so that they're probably getting ready for that. I know a lot of the content creators are going to go to that. I myself may go to that. I haven't locked down the ticket yet. I think I need to figure that out this week if I am. They're adding more archetypes. They added a bunch of archetypes this year. They spruced up a lot of old content, giving us a new chronoscope and attack on Stormreach. And then these are the challenge dungeons that were from the first dynamic event. And then they added the Deck of Many Curses. So that's pretty much that. All in all, it's not there's no real bad news other than the balance pass on the Epic Destinies and the fact that the hardcore season is going to be replaced by some dynamic event that may or may not be as bad or worse as the Illithid event. I mean, who knows? At this point, we just don't know. Uh, Probably the biggest W, though, for this entire letter is the fact that they decided to go to Myth Draenor for Dungeons and Dragons online players. You know that the Forgotten Realms is great, and it's probably the most popular content areas for all of Dungeons and Dragons, and I think that for the 50th anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons, to add Myth Draenor to DDO is a great idea. So I voted for that when they put up the vote for us. Not that I wouldn't have liked the Githyanki and the Planescape, the Astral Realm stuff, but I voted for Myth Draenor because I want them to go back to the Forgotten Realms and refresh all the content out there. But I am extremely hesitant to be excited about this new dynamic event that they're going to rely on as their new sort of meta and replace other events. Like, I do not want them to focus on hardcore like being replaced by these dynamic events when the first dynamic event, the Illithid event, was such a fail. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand what they're thinking about. Who's running this? Who's coming up with this map to not have hardcore on here? But then again, maybe this is an incomplete list because, like I've already pointed out, a lot of this is just garbage. Like, this doesn't need to be here. We already know it's the Year of the Dragon, so just get rid of all these. We already know this expansion here. This doesn't need to be here because we just pre-purchased it here. We know there's a level cap increase because it's part of the expansion. So a lot of this stuff that's listed here as bullet points aren't actually even bullet points. They just need to be deleted. And somebody with some sort of brevity needs to take over writing these lists and actually put down some real content, because they don't even tell us in this list here when the dynamic event is. All they say about it is that right here, let's look at it. This dynamic event will be inclusive to all levels since the Illithid invasion was fairly endgame focused, and it will take place of our hardcore season so that all players can participate. Now, does that mean that we won't have a hardcore season? We don't see it here, but we don't see the dynamic event either. So at this point, it's hard to say. I wrote on the DDO forum that it looks like they're snubbing hardcore, but I guess we'll see. So in the meantime, that's Mary's hot take. I hope you enjoyed. You probably have feelings yourself about it. I'm just going to hang out in my snuggie of protection and try to glean some happy vibes from the fact that we're getting Myth Draenor, and really sort of hope that the developers don't completely tank out one of the best things about DDO, which is hardcore. As a guild master over there, and I love it. It's not just Dungeons and Dragons who has a successful hardcore. There are other MMOs. World of Warcraft is a good example that does a hardcore, and it's extremely popular. So I don't think that they should cancel it. I think that it needs to be added to the roadmap somewhere, and there's lots of room here because, like I pointed out, there's a lot of placeholders here that don't really mean anything. So hopefully we get to see some cool stuff this year.